Hi there, welcome to the Unagi Observer. My name is Steve Gearhart, in case you didn't know that. You'll notice the intro is a little bit different, namely because my internet connection for my PC, actually within my PC, is broken, so I have to use other equipment, and I'm having trouble transferring files. So anyway, I have to do things a little bit differently this time around. This week, I want to talk something a little bit different. I want to talk about voter fraud because today is an election day. Okay, here's Baltimore. It's November 2nd. It's about 7 o'clock, an hour before the polls close. By the time this video will be up, the polls will be closed, so election day will be over. But I hope you all went out and voted. Today is a very important day. There's a lot of key races, no matter what your political position is. And whatever you believe in, I hope you got out there and voted. As I said earlier, I want to talk a little bit about voter fraud, and the reason why I want to talk about it is because there's been a lot of low voter turnout, which is kind of distressing. I think it's largely due to a lot of myths about voter fraud, and I'd just like to address that in a moment. Okay, here I am at the laptop that I'm not really familiar with, that I'm going to have to do today's Observer with. But anyway, the page I have up here is called the Brennan Center for Justice at the New York University School of Law. And this page is particularly called The Truth About Fraud. It is www.truthaboutfraud.org. I'll have the link down in the what they call the doobly-doo. And I'd suggest you click on it and you take a look at it, because it talks extensively about debunking the myths of voter fraud. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is that leading up to the Maryland elections, I can't speak for other states, but there has been a lot of accusations about people being able to vote twice, or voting, or being a fraudulent voter, or impacting the absentee ballot in some way, shape, or form. And my point is that unless you have this done en masse, meaning that this is a conspiracy, that hundreds or maybe even thousands of people are intentionally fraudulently voting, it's really kind of a mythical thing. And here's one of the reasons why. It's the punishment. For example, I was reading here, if you vote more than once with your own name, it's a $300 to $500 fine and 1 to 2 years, or 1 or 2 years in prison, plus you're disenfranchised from voting ever again. And that's if you're voting with the same name, like you vote in one district, but you go to another district and use your name to do a provisional ballot. If you assume somebody else's ID to vote, that's an automatic $500 fine, 1 year in prison, and again, disenfranchisement. Pretty heavy just to assume somebody else's ID so you can vote twice. Now, it gets really serious when you're talking about absentee ballots and tampering with ballot machines. For absentee ballots, screwing around with those, you get a $5,000 fine, of 5 years in prison, or 5 years in prison, or both, and of course, again, disenfranchisement. That's 5 years in prison and or $5,000. You can be guaranteed the $5,000. Maybe you can get probation on judgment or whatever for the 5 years, but still, that's a pretty hefty thing. Tampering with the voting machines, that's pretty serious. You get a felony conviction on that one. You will be assessed a $10,000 fine, 10 years of prison and or both, and of course disenfranchisement. Now, the reason why I bring these fines up, these punishments, is very simple. Who's going to take that risk to vote twice on their own initiative? They're not going to. Basically, you have to prove that it is a group of people ushering another group of people to vote illegally. And while some people think that has happened in 2000, since then there has been no record of that. So if you hear about voter fraud and people are saying that it definitely happened, take one note. Determine whether or not they're on the losing side. Because if they are, then that's kind of bad sportsmanship. But research the actual accusation, because those are pretty serious accusations. Anyway, so I'm going to be done with this. I'll go back to normal fun stuff next week. But I hope you went out and you voted and exercised your right. Okay, have a good one.